This is not my favorite way to start a morning. I gotta tell you that. Oh. Well, I am back in Utah. This time we're hiking Coyote Gulch, which is part of the Grand Staircase Escalante National Monument. I'm here with Devin from Backcountry Exposure, and it's kind of wild. We didn't realize this until just a couple of days ago, but we planned this trip on the exact 1 year anniversary of our Little Death Hollow trip, which was our first backpacking trip together. So it's pretty exciting to be back in Utah with Devin for the actual anniversary of our first time hiking together. So like with a lot of my trips recently, this one includes a thing I'm afraid of, and I'm trying to overcome that fear and work my way past it. So here in about a mile or so, we have a crack that we have to crawl through, and it's very, very narrow. And if I'm being super honest, as I tend to be, it's freaking me out a little bit. I get kind of claustrophobic in tight spaces, so much so like ages and ages ago when I was in the Boy Scouts. I'm old enough that when I was in the Scouts, we still had these super heavy canvas pup tents that no light could seep through. And on these trips that we would take with the Scouts, I'd always have to keep the door rolled open regardless of what the weather was doing outside and regardless of what the temperature was. I just needed that light seeping into the tent. So I'm pretty nervous about going through this crack, and I'm pretty happy to be here with Devin. So I have somebody with some more experience guiding me through it, but that is the fear I'm overcoming on this trip, is that kind of claustrophobic feeling in tight spaces. So we're at the crack, and I just watched another group go through, which oddly I thought would help, you know, just knowing that it's doable, knowing that people can get through it, but it didn't. And my nerves are on high alert. So, nothing for it now but to do it, I guess. tight. I made it. Oh boy. I made it. So I want to tell you that it was easier than I thought. I want to tell you that it was fine, but that was really scary for me. I made it through. Everything's fine. It was really, really tight in one section, but hardest part of the trip is over. So we just came down this, and we get to go back up it in the morning with very likely wet feet. Welcome to Utah. Nice. Good call. I didn't. You know, just walking up knee-deep river water in November. No big deal. Well, we found camp for the night. It's a lovely little sandbar next to the Escalante River. Spent a lot more time in the water today than I was planning on. And it was very cold. I spent a ton of time in the Sierras, hiking in the snow and camping in the snow, sleeping in the snow. And today may be the coldest my feet have ever been. It was very, very cold water. And we get to do it all again tomorrow morning when it'll be even colder. So it's time for some dinner and then to crawl into my brand new 20-degree quilt and get warm. Good morning. Well, after a hard day yesterday of navigating, thigh-deep water through that river, I slept like a rock. Like, I slept really, really well. So, feeling energized this morning, definitely ready for some breakfast. Last night was supposed to be the coldest night on the trip, and I was warm. I bought a 20-degree Enlightened Equipment quilt just before this trip, and this is the first time I've used it. And man, it was super comfortable. I paired it with the Sea to Summit Etherlight XT, which I was a little worried about because that pad only has an R value of I think 3 or 3.2. But I was toasty warm and super comfortable all night. Typically on backpacking trips, I toss and turn all night. Have to, wake up and find a new comfortable spot. But last night, I slept all the way through. So I think that pairing is a really good combination for quality sleep in the backcountry. Pretty happy about that. So on this trip, I am experimenting a little bit with my breakfast food. I typically just carry instant oatmeal and then like a packet of peanut butter to mix into it. And I've been doing that same breakfast every trip, every morning for decades. So I wanted to try something different. So I mixed up some instant potatoes and I dehydrated some tempeh with like a smoky, almost like fake bacon kind of flavor. So we'll see how this turns out. Well, that was absolutely the right choice for breakfast. That was so much better than just oatmeal and peanut butter, which sadly is what I have for tomorrow's breakfast. I only brought one of these potato concoctions, but it was so good. I had potato flakes, salt, pepper, a little bit of garlic, a little bit of onion powder, and then the dehydrated tempeh that I just bought, like a brick of tempeh, and sliced it up and put it on my dehydrator at home. And it was so hearty and so delicious. That was the right way to start the morning. I'm excited. We're packing up the last bits of our campsite, making sure we're not leaving anything behind. Yesterday was probably the most mentally challenging part of this trip for me because we had to go through that crack in the wall. And I made it. It was fine. It was a good memory, and I overcame my fear of tight spaces a little bit. So totally worth it, totally fun. Today is more of a physical challenge. We have to backtrack up the Escalante through that kind of thigh-deep, freezing cold water to the confluence of Coyote Gulch, and then work our way up Coyote Gulch to the next campsite. So today is not without its challenges, even though for me personally, the hardest mental piece of this trip to get over is behind me. There are still a lot of challenges to come. So this is a completely different experience for me in terms of backpacking. I've never river walked, quite literally. We're going through like thigh deep water at some points. And, I could spend a lifetime exploring the Sierras and be happy to do so. I love it there. But it is, by and large, the same experience over and over and over again with just different views. And I think it's important to try new things and try scary things. And this trip has hit the mark on all of those. It has definitely been new and it has definitely been a bit scary, but I am stoked to be here. This is wild. So we just moved across this section of pretty steep, slick sandstone, and it's angled down like straight into the ravine, straight into the water.
It's not just the angle down. It's like angle down and a good 20-foot drop.
Yeah.
Like into jagged boulders and yeah.
Watching Devin move through this environment, it's like he was born for this. It's crazy. I'm like stumbling around and my heart's beating super fast. I got cotton mouth. I'm like all nervous. And he's just cruising along, pointing at things like, just like he lives here. I did okay though. I made it. I didn't fall, so I think I did pretty good.
No, you did awesome. That's not easy terrain to move across. Like, even for me. I do this all the time, but it's still like has its consequence, and you have to be smart when you're moving across stuff like that. But it's no joke. You have to be careful when you're in this kind of environment.
You make it look easy.
done it a few times, but still cautious.
So it's kind of interesting as we're walking along, we're in water almost the whole day, and most of it you can't drink. So we're looking off to the side of the trail for these springs trickling down to find filterable water. And it's just kind of a strange feeling to be shin deep in water all day and still kind of be worried about where I'm going to find fresh water. So a big part of coming on this trip and doing the Timberline Trail that I did recently, and even like the Bears Lake Basin trip that I took, it's just kind of expanding my experience in outdoor spaces. I grew up in the Sierras, I grew up around Lake Tahoe, and it's kind of all I know. So it's really important to me, especially as I'm getting older, to expand that experience and see more of these places. And this trip has been very physically demanding on me. We've done some hard things. You kind of got to do the hard stuff to see the beautiful stuff. So for the past several miles, Devin's been talking about this site that he wanted to visit that he hadn't been here yet. And we found it. It's so cool. There's pictographs and all kinds of indigenous artifacts. It's just so amazing to come across a space like this and be able to share in that history. The effort to get up this steep sandy hill absolutely paid off.
So good.
We made it to campsite number 2 for the trip. We're just below this absolutely gorgeous arch. You can see right there. All day, Devin's been talking about this campsite, this specific campsite. And we got it. We got the exact campsite that he wanted, so that's awesome. It's been an amazing trip so far. Like, this is our last night of camping. We do have some more hiking tomorrow. Another kind of sketchy face my fears bit, but we walked just over 10 miles today and I'm feeling it. 10 miles here is so different than 10 miles, you know, in the Sierras or any of the other places I'm used to hiking. So it is time for dinner and bed. Good morning. We woke up in this just stunning campsite. I feel so lucky to be sitting where I'm sitting right now. This is amazing. Every day on this trip has presented a different challenge. You know, the first day we had the crack in the wall. Yesterday we had that kind of long slick rock traverse, that side hill section. And today we have the exit. And the exit is a very steep sandstone climb, like a class 3 scramble essentially. And if I'm being real honest, I'm feeling nervous. I watched some people go up it yesterday and it looked like they were having a pretty rough time. So grateful to be here with someone who has experience, not just with these kind of environments, but with this trail specifically. Devin's been out here and has done the exit, so he can kind of guide me and let me know what to expect. But we're getting breakfast ready. Camp is mostly broken down and we're gonna head to that exit. I want to film some of it, obviously, but I'm gonna have to balance my safety, you know, obviously takes precedent over the YouTube channel. So you may or may not see me climbing the exit, but we'll definitely talk about it when I'm at the top. we're at the exit. There's a pretty large group going ahead of us, so we're kind of hanging back just a little bit. Somebody has left rope, you can see. I'm pretty nervous. I mean, I know I'm gonna make it to the top. I know that. I have no question in my mind about that. It's just, how long is it gonna take? And how nervous am I gonna be while making this climb? We'll see. So I made it up the first section without a ton of difficulty. This next section is much steeper and much longer, so unfortunately, I had to ask Devin to go up, come back down after he ditched his pack and carry my pack up. I just don't feel comfortable doing it with a full pack, so not an ideal situation. I'm not feeling super good about it, but safety first. We're past the most difficult part, the only part that you would really need a rope or any climbing experience, which I am woefully devoid of. But I think I did okay, even if I did have to ask Devin to carry my pack. I navigated packless fairly well. So we just have this one little section left that's more of just like a 3-point scramble, and then a 2-mile cross-country trek back to the car, a 6-hour drive back to Devin's house. Whew. It's been a heck of a trip.
Jim crushed it. It was awesome.
As we work our way back towards the car across this absolutely massive sandstone expanse, I can't help but think like how perfect this weekend went. By design, this trip was meant to take me out of my comfort zone and to force me to face some of these fears that I've been carrying with me for a very long time. To be out here with my good friend Devin and to be successful at each and every obstacle that we faced, it just couldn't have gone better. I am so happy that we made this trip happen and that it all turned out the way that it turned out. What an absolutely perfect weekend.
Pav, your hiking partner, showing you amazing places like the Escalante River.